Hello, everybody. My name is Jarvis Green. I am the producing artistic director of JAG Productions. We are a Black theater company in White River Junction, Vermont. And our mission is to bring more compassion, empathy, and love into the world by telling stories that challenge hierarchies of race, gender, class, and sexuality. And so today we have two extraordinary human beings, playwrights, Stacey Rose and Keelay Gipson. And we're going to be in conversation about this moment, this revolution that's happening right now, and what has transpired for us over the past, few weeks. So we'll just first start the conversation. Keelay and Stacey, just introduce yourselves, talk a little bit about your work. And then, we'll shift the conversation into what I really want to talk to you guys about is this petition that has been going around that I signed and I think you all signed as well. And so want to open that can of worms and be in discussion about that. So introduce yourselves to everybody.
Hello, I'm Keelay Gipson. I'm originally from Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I was brought up. And now I work as an educator, as a playwright, and as a Black motherfucking person in this country. So there's a lot. My work mostly talks about being Black and queer and the intersection surrounding those two identities. So yeah. Happy to be here.
Hey, I am Stacey Rose. I am originally from Elizabeth, New Jersey, but a lot of my life has been spent in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is where I am now, and I'm based here now. I am a playwright. Most of my writing ranges in terms of subject matter, but always focuses on and celebrates Blackness. I write Black plays for Black people. And I don't know, they're dark, they're funny. Sometimes there's social comedy and sometimes there's just four fat bitches in a sauna. So it just depends on what the mood is and where my pen goes, And then Keelay is my partner in this little venture we did.
Honey, Aquarians all the way. Listen, if you don't have an Aquarian in your life, get one. Get one.
Wait, when are your birthdays?
You and me, same.
Are you both Aquarius?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a January 26th. And
I'm a February 15th.
Got it. I'm a Cancer, July 5th. Of course.
Come on, Cancer.
Yeah. Okay,
no,
exactly. That makes sense.
Exactly.
That's everything.
Exactly. So just a check-in on our mental health, how's our heart, where are our minds? I know for me, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle, which is why I wanted to have this conversation, because a lot of this, for me right now in this moment, I've been, having to process a lot of this, on my own. A couple weeks ago, I had surgery, outpatient surgery, which I thought was just going to be in and out, right? And then I come home and 48 hours, I would be back to normal. And it wasn't that easy. And so, all of what's been happening right now, right? This revolution that's happening right now, it happened when I was bedridden, right? And I couldn't get up and I would scroll over to my phone. I'm like, oh my God, the world has literally erupted. Right. And I'm seeing once again, a Black body, in the street, fighting for their life. And so, I was tender with myself to just be yo, you're healing, turn the phone off and lay the back down. And then so days would go by and I would see more things happening. And then all of a sudden, some goddess of health and healing came to my apartment and I was able to get enough strength to write a statement on behalf of JAG Productions and since that moment, there's just been a lot that's been happening, like phone calls and emails, and people want a partner that has never reached out to me before, that has known about my work and has like, and so, you know, there's been a little bit of like betrayal and like anger, right? Of people wanting to exploit this moment to sort of partner side by side, because that's like the thing that's on everyone's mind right now. So we will get to that later, but just to check in on like your mental health and how you're kind of like processing and taking care of yourselves. Would love to hear where y'all at.
Yeah. So for me, I am a member of a 12-step community I've been a member of for almost 11 years now. So as part of my recovery process, I always had a morning routine of some sort. And now it's kind of the morning routine on steroids, where it's just like, it's maybe I'll pray, maybe I'll meditate, maybe I'll yoga. And now it's more sort of like I have to do all three, especially depending on what the work is for that day. That and the healing power of just spending time with your family and letting them get on your nerves, which is like, for real, when they wear me, the way they wear me down feels so good right now. Like, the little like back and forth stuff, like, you know, my nephew was wrapping out the school year and how my mom was helping him and his iPad, like all of that. I was so full. Yesterday, I got overwhelmed. Me and my mom went thrift shopping and she wore me out while we were thrift shop. And I like that, and like taking me out of the moment to make me realize that my feet are on the ground. Those are things that have been really important to me. And spending time with my son, those things have been really important to me.
How old is your son? I didn't know you had a son.
Oh yeah, I'm old. He's 21.
You're not old.
You're not.
I am.
So youthful. Blessed.
I am.
You look blessed.
No, I'm 44. My son's 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Keelay? What are your... there have been two chunks of time, right? So we're in this new version of it, but we all started out with this stay-at-home pandemic moment, right? And so I was teaching and then swiftly got moved to online teaching. And so there was a thing to figure out. So I think at the beginning, I sort of was distracted with trying to move my class, which relies heavily on like discussion and putting ideas into a space and teasing them out onto this platform, which is interesting. And now we've gotten so used to it that maybe we don't remember what it feels like to have just started with it. And my class was like 40 students, 2 sections, and like scrolling through trying to find someone to speak, but nobody wanted to speak because it doesn't feel the same as being in a room with someone. So I think my mental health was just sort of in this churning, figuring out mode. And then school stopped. I graded my finals, and then I just had nothing but time. And I've been sitting with that time. And I think part of the reason Stacey and I's work has come to fruition, was even thought of, was utilizing this time. I've been through ups, I've been through downs. There were days I didn't come out of my room because it's hard to know what to do. And there's a lot of feelings going on right now. Mm-hmm. And then to add insult to injury, there's a lot of stuff as a country we haven't dealt with. So it's just one thing exacerbates the other. And some days I'm good and some days I'm not. But holding space for both of those things to be true, however they manifest, is sort of what I'm doing. And so I'm just leading with honesty and saying, today I'm good. Mm-hmm. Yesterday I was good too, but some days I'm not, and that's okay. It's okay to just be, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've only had like a week of like, you know, where my days were felt like really good. Like since this whole pandemic started, like I haven't wanted to leave my house or like wanted to leave my apartment. I did spend some time in South Carolina with my family, which was something that I've never done in my adult life. Like I've never had that much time with my family. And just like you were saying, Stacey, like that's the kind of like get on my nerves that I can like, that I can fucks with. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like, tough conversations, like crying, like childhood stuff coming up and out, but like working through it and like with them felt like really beautiful. And at the time, quite honestly, like I didn't, especially now, right? And I'm kind of missing home. It's like, I want to spend all of my time with like my family and Black folk to be.
Yeah. Wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like, I'm still struggling with that, like that trust and like that, you know, it was like when you know, in 2016, when the election happened, like all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know who to trust anymore, you know?
Somebody put him in there.
What's that?
Somebody put him in there and it wasn't us. As Keelay would say.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So Keelay and Stacey, I want to talk about the petition that went out. I would love to hear like, one, I would love for y'all to explain and talk about this petition because I think that y'all may know more than I do of like how it got started and like, you know, what's happening right now, what's happening moving forward, what are some ideas and et cetera, et cetera. So just kind of bring people into this conversation of like this petition and how it got started. So there is a little bit more like context. I know that for me, I would love to like learn more about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
So, okay. I mean, that feels great. I will say that like in terms of origin story, it's really just Stacey and we talk on the phone often and we have this fun, lovely relationship where we just like, we're Aquarians. We keep each other honest and we tell each other how we feel. And we were just laughing and joking and talking, like having Black joy in this time of crisis and just venting basically. And out of the venting came an idea that, you know, happens when you're having fun with your friend and you just like, girl, what there needs to be,
right?
There needs to be a damn form where somebody can tell what they've gone through. And then we could take that and say, if you want to work with us, then you're going to have to sign this paper that says all of these things that you have done in the past, we're not taking that no more. And it was really just an idea. Stacey was.
Yeah.
What's the title of this petition?
Well, we're specifically talking about the Theater Makers of Color survey and its origin story. So I was sitting on, you can't see it because of the reflection, but this North Carolina floor is the floor. Maybe somebody gonna document that, but that's the floor I was sitting on when me and Keelay were having a good kiki and about everybody being upset. And I was like, you know what? And I come from a mom with she's a union background person, and she would chase her managers with picket signs, and so she's always raised me towards action, and so I'm like, all of this, I'm glad everybody's riled up. I'm glad everybody's feeling a ways, but it's like if nobody is really tracking, and then from that information making a list of demands, we're gonna potentially lose it, right? Lose the momentum and then not have made anything out of it. So there needs to be an ask after the rage. And that's kind of where that form came from. Mm-hmm. And what I love is that like we didn't like Mary Crisco made the form that actually set shit ablaze about the theaters who had not responded to Black Lives Matters. And all of that was like hell yeah. And then there was our forum, and then there's another forum in other areas, and people are galvanizing together to collect these information and get these receipts on these theaters. So yeah, in terms of our forum, it became a thing so quickly.
Yes. And yeah, I think we thought it was going to be this thing, creating of community, because like we've all been in those spaces where something crazy happens, white folks be whiting, right? And we all look at each other, the other people of color in the room, the other Black folks in the room, and we go, clocked, I see you, okay? But like, I'm tired of doing that in this bubble of like, okay, now we have acknowledged amongst the Black folks in the room that this is wrong, right? And so I wanted to reach out and say, let's gather those experiences so that then they don't have to be a one-on-one look. They can be something tangible.
And actionable. And so that's kind of been, and I mean, in a matter of, we're right at a week, right? About 430, when I last checked this morning, theater makers had filled out the form and submitted their experiences and all of those things. So it was through our work in that we also found out about the work of the group that made the larger petition that went out, and it just seemed like, and then their work and the work, it feels like all of this work is just bumping and colliding. For me, the theater makers who put together the I guess people are calling it We See You, but for me, signing that particular petition was really about the first shot fired in a war, right?
Yeah.
So we don't count on the first shot fired in a war to kill or maim the enemy in any real way. It's like,
ignite.
Yes, motherfucker, we in it. So for me, that's how I saw signing it, and that's what it meant to me. When it was presented to me, I'm like, hell yeah. Because was I fully represented on it? No, I'm a fat Black woman who's middle-aged. And nowhere in the language does it say anything about people who are upset. So it's just like, it's not a perfect document, but I also don't rely on a document to make me feel protected. It's the document, it's the shot fired, and then it's the work. So it's the work me and Keelay are doing, the work that particular collective is doing, that are all working that's working in tandem to create the landscape we want. And I'm excited to be working in this environment now and doing something with this particular, I just get really mad when folks have been leaned upon the way that BIPOC folk and queer folk have been leaned on in this industry and have been expected to navigate this industry in silence, dying by 1,000 cuts every day, and having to swallow it in the name of union benefits, having to swallow it in the name of I need a job, even though that job doesn't pay that well. And it's bullshit. And it's just time we kick down some doors.
Yeah. And like operating from this place of scarcity has really, I think we're seeing all of these movements pop up. And listen, no movement is perfect. And I think moving forward with that and knowing that for myself and for Stacey, like that's why we want to do the work. And like I say to anybody who is like, I like Stacey was not fully represented on the We See You, but it was the living document, meaning it can change and shift and move, that will galvanize people to further action. And the further action that I'm taking, the further action that Stacey's taking, that all of these people are taking, they're all correct. And sometimes they will fail and sometimes they will need more, but that's why it's a revolution. There are a lot of different things popping up. And sometimes,
go ahead.
Sometimes we'll agree, and sometimes we will disagree, but we have to be open to both, agreeing and disagreeing, because that is the work. Hearing something and being like, you know what, that's a good note. And like, it will help expand or bring more people in. I think that's important to have in this moment, especially.
And like Issa Rae said, I'm rooting for everybody Black.
Because Black liberation liberates everybody.
Liberates us all.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really interesting to, and I'm really, really excited about whatever this potential is for this forum and this, and these like demands and guidelines that theaters will have to like hold themselves accountable when they're engaging with Black and brown folk. And it just like made me think that like nobody should have to like run away from like where you were doing New York, doing what makes you happy. And that's like making theater. Like I pretty much left New York because I could not take the like racism and the dog and pony show essentially. And so it's been really interesting sort of seeing like now these like Broadway artists and all of these people coming out telling their stories. And I'm just like, I commend anyone that can, but I did not have the strength. Like I did not have the willpower to just like put up with that day in. And like, there's not a check. There's not a person in a position of power enough where I could like stomach that, anymore. I just like, I couldn't do it. So it's just like, part of me was like, really? Y'all didn't like the whole, especially when it comes to commercial theater, it's like, it's the most like racist, oppressed, like white supremacist space that you can ever like imagine. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I'm glad that people are putting things out, but like, I'm also like, yeah, that has been going on for a very long time. And like all of us, like what I hate about this moment is just like, it seems like that it's just happening for the first time, right? Because no one has been like speaking out about it. So people all of a sudden be like, oh, it's like that. And I'm like,
it hasn't, but the thing is like people were afraid to speak out. And I think it's a perfect storm. And that's why this moment it feels different. And I hope it's different.
Yeah.
But it feels different because everybody was at home. Everybody was galvanized because they were sitting down.
That's right.
They were watching. Their eyes were open and ready for new things to be revealed to them. Right. This has been happening, and anybody in the theater knows it's been happening. But it's been happening between those little looks between the brown and Black folk in the room, or working or swimming or like fighting their way to get into a position where they could say, this is fucked up without losing their job. You know what I mean? But now people don't have a job. People don't have a check. People are sitting at home and they're bored, for lack of a better word. And then this comes up and they say, oh, this has happened before. But we're tired because I don't have any resources. I don't have a job to go to. And I'm over it and have been over it. So I feel like this, with the pandemic and, Black Lives Matter's, this version or iteration of the movement, I feel like it's different because we all see it. Everybody's at home to watch.
Yeah. My mom, who was 71 and who lived through civil rights and now is like, her and I had a conversation about how amazing it is that she has seen both arcs of story and how for even her, it feels different. I know I'm a little delayed. The sun's starting to get me. It be trying me. It's that time of day. But that we had a really good conversation. And it's such a different one than the one we had after the 2016 election, because I literally had to sit on the phone with my mother while she cried. And she could not understand that all the work that had been done was now essentially, was about to be undone. And she was right. And so just sitting in this time and sitting in this moment is pretty incredible. It does feel different for sure. But it also, my hope and what I'm starting to see is that it's shaking loose, not just in our industry, but all of them, right?
Yes.
Because there's reckonings coming for all of them. And they need that to be, you know, just sustainable, quite honestly, because nobody can go back. We can't go back. Like, what does going back look like now that we have said everything that we needed to say? Right. What does going back even look like? And the answer is it's not an option.
Yeah. And there's so much more coming, right? Like, yes, all of the things that have been said, they're valid, and that's great. We're doing some active work right now. But once we are through with that work, we're going to have to turn the mirror on ourselves, because there are some Black and brown folks that have been perpetuating the system of white supremacy within their own organizations, right? Or they've fought and clawed their way to a position where now they are enacting the same thing on their fellow Black and brown. But, you know, that's what scarcity engenders, right?
Right. And
so, but we're going to have to do this work that we're in right now, and then do that work, which I think is even harder work.
I'm even, and
so honestly, there's a lot coming.
I'm more excited for that.
Breathe,
work.
Drink water, do yoga.
Yeah.
Keelay, you're frozen. Frozen.
Hello.
Yeah, you froze for like a little second. Keelay.
That's a really cute.
It's a good little
frozen
for him.
Of.
He's so cute. So cute. Hey, Keelay, but he'll come back soon. But what was I gonna say? Lord, probably nothing helpful.
I mean, we were talking about, like, you know, we can't go back to normal, so I'm really interested.
Yeah,
if we had to imagine, like, what
imagine forward. Gosh, a lot of more grassroots theater, more differently structured systems, different unlearning this system of taste that we have learned, this Eurocentric sense of taste. Someone brought it up in my comments, and sis, if you're watching, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name right now, but I'm not going to take credit for what you said, but it did stick with me. And that we also have to think about how we have been trained to qualify what good work is. So I would love to see a system that shifts what merit means. And what value means, and because my work might not move someone, and Keelay's might, you know, and so we have to create basically a landscape where there's room enough. There's room enough for different styles, different opinions, different voices, just room, and that shit is not easy.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of, it's a tearing down of the infrastructure, which I think happens, which I think we're in the middle of, and a reimagining of it. And even things that seem so unmovable. Like I said, I was in a conversation, a back and forth about unions and how powerful unions are. Unions don't own you. You know, unions are not. It's time you shift those dynamics, because that's the same union that allows you to get paid $25 for 12 hours of a day. Like when I would do reading, like when I was living in New York, I left for the same reasons. When I was doing readings in New York, and actors were were with us all day, a long 12-hour day. Like my day job, or used to be day job until recently, I was a respiratory therapist. A 12-hour shift for me is $300 at minimum. So for someone to sit there with you workshopping a play all day long and to walk out with $25 cash as your payment, that's bullshit. And that's how your union's protecting you? I call bullshit. So I think it's time for us to rethink and renegotiate our terms with everything within the industry, from agents to unions, like everything needs to be renegotiated and reevaluated. And people have to understand that we are the American theater. We, the theater artists, are the theater. These institutions, these unions, these agents, they're not the theater. We're it. If we didn't write, if we didn't act, if we didn't direct, if we didn't design, there would be no fucking theater, period. If there weren't tech folk dealing with the shit that they got to deal with, because there are not a lot of BIPOCs in tech, and those motherfuckers, the ones who are, get dragged. So it's just like it's not just the actors, not just the playwrights. It's all of us. Our varied institutions and stuff, they don't own us.
Yeah, I've been really thinking about this sort of artist and institution like relationship, right? Because I'm, before I started being like running a theater and directing and things like that, well, primarily like artistic directing, like I was an actor and a director. And so I'm always like, as I'm dealing with a board, right? My creative brain is always on, like a leader, an arts leader, as well as a creative person. And recently I've been thinking about this sort of like the artist-institution relationship and like how institutions actually kind of just like move forward with this virtual thing, right? Like, I mean, the world has gone to Zoom right now, but like who decided that like we should put all of our like, plays on Zoom now, right? And then all of a sudden artists got to figure this stuff out. We got to like get a Zoom light. And you know what I mean? Like you have to like do all this.
You're supposed to expose yourself, Jarvis. You glow that way now.
Yeah, we thought it was a natural glow.
Yes, naturally. Yes. But yeah, like, I think that like a lot of, I don't know, just this, how institutions like move forward with things and all of a sudden artists have to just kind of like pick up and like do it without like resources or, paying people appropriately, et cetera, et cetera. So, Keelay, do you have any thoughts on like this sort of like artist institution relationship and how we want to kind of imagine forward?
Well, it's interesting because I have had many fellowships with art institutions, and they've been lovely and helped me develop plays.
Are you still going to Paris, by the way? Are you still going to France for your I'm
gonna go sit and commune with Baldwin, and that's not going to happen.
Tell Jimmy I said hi.
I'm gonna tell Jimmy. Jimmy knows you said hi. He said hi back already.
He's with us right now. Like
he's with us now. Exactly.
Pretty much. He would be smoking a cigarette. All I got right now is this incense.
But I feel like I've been helped by many, and they all have their place, right? They all have their pros and cons. I'm not going to get into them, but like, I think these institutions are functioning primarily from a place of scarcity. And right now they're shook because we don't know when theater's coming back in the traditional sense, right? We don't know when there's going to be bodies in a room sharing space, sharing air together. And so that makes people shook when they're already functioning from a place of scarcity and ticket sales and donors and boards and all of that, right? Yeah. So I get the impulse to want to create virtually. For me, myself personally, no thank you. Because things like this are great. Providing community is great. But Zoom plays are not theater. And I might get in trouble for saying that, but it's not. Theater is people in space sharing the same air and having an emotional experience with the people on stage. It's different every night. Zoom is so sterile and cold. I have no interest. But other people have been doing it and revolutionizing it, and there will be innovation within this form, and I'm excited to see that. Right now, it feels sterile, it feels cold. Yep. And so
this means you're not coming to my reading?
If I am available to come to anybody's Zoom reading, I will sit in.
I'm saving a seat for you in the front row.
That's great. I will not turn my video screen on. I will just be audio, and I will be cooking dinner at the same time. But that's the thing. That's the thing. I love a podcast. To me, Zoom plays are podcasts that are not well executed.
Yeah,
I might get in trouble. Like, this is
no, but I think those two worlds can live together. Like, I've been thinking about, because my organization is like becoming an institution, right? We've only been around 4 years, and it's like most of it has been about like trying to make this thing work. And over the past year, we've kind of like blown up a little bit, for in our own little way. And so when things kind of shifted to virtual programming, like, we've been in a lot of conversations of being like, oh, look at them doing that and them doing that. And I'm just like, I don't want to do this. I'm not excited about this one bit. And I'm like, it's me and one other employee. I'm like, who's teaching me this whole technical landscape to make this like somewhat interesting? But back to what you were saying about the podcast, like, I've been thinking about how do you make these Zoom readings so it like more sound design focused, so that you're like can be washing the dishes and like doing stuff around the house, and like there's this whole sound landscape. People can still do the reading, but you don't have to look at your screen.
And it really just depends on the play, whether or not it translates that way.
Right.
Because the play I'm attempting, I'm gonna just be honest, it might not.
Right.
Because it's a very musical play. There's a lot of overlapping of language. There's just a lot that's happening. And we have, me and my director, Tiffany Nicole Green, hey girl, have decided that we're not going to attempt music per se. We're going to try to figure out. So I have always been that person who loves tech and wants to figure out how to make it work. And it might be shitty. But it's like, I just like playing in that way. But I agree with you. I think sometimes these readings can be a little dry and could use some innovation. So that's kind of the land we're going in. But we're definitely only doing this on Zoom because of
the situation.
Yeah. And listen, pioneer, like being the first to do anything is hard. Like being a pioneer is hard. And this is all new and a quick fix to the thing that we love to do, right? So I get the intention behind it.
Right.
And so I decidedly have stepped back and said, I'm not going to really do anything Zoom-based. But like, come talk to me in 6 months and theater's not open, I might be doing Zoom plays. Do you know what I mean?
It definitely won't be open in 6 months.
So, someone might come to me and be like, let's do a Zoom play. And I'll be like, I'm going to have to eat my words. And I am happy to do that. One thing that therapy in this moment has taught me is not to be afraid to be wrong. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid anymore to be wrong. I will say, I'm sorry. Oops, my bad. But right now, fuck a Zoom play.
Right. So, the well-meaning sort of white institutions, that may be watching this right now, and or people that want to support.
Oh, that tore me down. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it took you out. I'm sorry. You wasn't angry.
What, Stacey?
She just laughed at me saying so much. Aquarian stands for contrarian. So if you know any Aquarians, we are contrary as shit.
I think January, what is your birthday, Keelay?
26. I share a birthday with Che Yu and Michael R. Jackson. We're all 26 babies.
I Che was on your birthday too?
Yeah, January 26th.
My mom's birthday.
I love Che.
I think she's a Capricorn. What's January 6th, 14th? Well, shoot. I'm sorry, Mom.
January 14th,
Capricorn.
That's a cat. Yeah, she's a Capricorn.
My brother's a cat. Me and him, no same.
Capricorns and Aquarius, they don't.
Well, I don't know, but it might literally just be him. Because also
Capricorns have a takeover spirit.
Yeah.
Don't Geminis do as well.
Oh, you a Gemini?
I'm not a Gemini.
No, you're a Cancer.
Yeah,
Geminis have takeover spirit. I know some. Wow.
I really want you to stop saying that. It makes me laugh so hard.
What does he say?
Takeover spirit.
Oh, takeover spirit. Yeah. No, you said that about Gemini.
Somebody old black
about Gemini. Or Jeremy O'Brien said that about Gemini. That they take over spirit or something.
They got a takeover spirit. But we love them.
Please send me the link to the book that you got that out of.
I think that's my grandma Marguerite. I think she would say that.
Like somebody old.
It's an auntie thing.
Look,
yeah.
baby, he got a takeover spirit.
No.
And it means what it means. It's just all in there. You know what it means, even if you never heard it before. Got a takeover spirit.
So Keelay and Stacey, what for people that like want to support, you know, like what are resources that have like worked in the past that have been effective, or like what resources are needed right now to sort of continue to amplify, you know, BIPOC theater artists, or, you know, in the American theater? Like what are some things that excite you that folks can bring to the table to make our experiences better?
I mean, first and foremost, my Venmo handle is at Keelay-Gipson. So if you feel so moved to support this work, because like let's just put it on the table.
At Stacey Rose 92.
Okay.
Stacey, because that other Stacey Rose ain't me.
Can I tell y'all something about Venmo really quickly though? They have a clause that it's only for friends. So if you get money by people that aren't your friends and like, you know, it's a wrong thing, or if you charge someone, like you will potentially like you will lose your money. So you remember when I told you yesterday in our
everybody's not friend.
In our prep talk, there's a list going around the state of Vermont, wealth redistribution, right? And so there's a bunch of Black folk that are on this list with their Venmo and their PayPal. And so I have been getting blessed by random people, mostly on PayPal. And the other day I got something on Venmo and it said wealth redistribution. And I was like, great. And so I just hit the button like normal, but it was a charge. Some like evil person has got who like found this list and is now targeting Black and brown folk on this list. And so I was charged $500 because it said wealth redistribution. And so I just thought that like I'm, you know, someone is paying and someone's giving me money. And so I just like clicked, but it was a charge. And Venmo is not giving me my money back because they're like, oh, you're only supposed to accept money from like your friends, you know? So just be.
Okay. But
also that's that God, white supremacy and like it's everywhere. Even when you're like it's just everywhere. And I never thought that someone, you know, that could potentially happen, but people are now targeting this list and doing charging requests on Venmo. So, but yes, your Venmo still resources, send it to.
No, yeah. And like,
be careful.
And we're not doing this for any money or any sort of gain. Like, this is hard work. The stories that people are telling us, you know, it's traumatizing. And they're sharing their trauma. I can only imagine what it must feel like to sit down and fill this out and be as candid as some of these surveys are. And the thing is like, we have similar experiences. So in reading them and synthesizing them,
yeah,
we're re-traumatizing ourselves. So it's like, this is not fun. This is not like work that we're doing for some ulterior motive. It's we need resources because it's taxing. So if you can, please give. And if you can't, please support in another way. Yeah. I know that we have.
I think us and anybody out here doing similar work, like throw support their way as well. It's just really important that at this time, the people who are doing this work feel like they can focus on this work. Um, you know, it's, I don't know. I think for so long we've been made to feel that I know for me, coming out of a family where 9 to 5s were normal, and then doing art for a living, I always felt very, I always felt it very, like I just felt bad about asking for money for art. And at this point, the amount of time and money I invest, the number of conversations had, the number of plans come up with, all of that stuff. Like sometimes I find myself doing that stuff more than writing.
Yeah.
And it's important stuff, right? So it's like I say that this is also a time to uplift the artist as worker, and because we do work, and we recently shout out to Charlotte. Our Black Lives Matter mural was featured on Complex, a couple other places. So a lot of different artists in the city were all paid to paint one of the letters in Black Lives Matters. And a lot of those are visual artists I've known for years and years and years. And so there started to be this bubbling of how what they did didn't mean anything. How fucking dare you, number one. B, it's like sometimes art is the only thing, art is what got us through quarantine. Art is what continues to get us through. Art is what made the Black experience in America tolerable. So don't tell those Black artists who just went out there and did these and did that work. And I mean, it was like joyous. I was out there with them as they were painting, and I was like reuniting with folks. I'm back in town newly, and we've all been quarantined. So I'm like loving on, probably getting corona is fine because my job was trying to kill me anyway. Like I was loving on these and spending that time with them as they were creating this work, for somebody to say it doesn't mean anything. So it's just like, no, art is work. And art is what sets you to inspiration. Art is how you get the fuck up in the morning and turn on the music that motivates you to take your ass to your funky 9 to 5. So like, don't act like we don't do shit.
Yeah.
So my Venmo hand is Stacey Rose 92. Yes, and my Cash App is the Rose 92.
Amen.
Come on, bet. So we're going to open it up to some questions. I know people are commenting on the Facebook feed, and Tamara is going to send us some questions. So if you are out there and have a question for us, please put it in the comment section, and we will get on that. So Tamara just sent a question about your experience with the Vermont redistribution money experience. Do people who have shared that list for support know about this experience? Yes, I emailed, I called a friend who actually posted to a listserv, a specific listserv about this list. And I let them know that like, hey, like, I think someone may be trolling. I sent a note to Venmo. I don't really know if it's true or not. And I've sent this person some messages and he hasn't responded. I'm going to wait and see what happens. But as of, this morning, this person has refused to acknowledge my messages. And this person has also, when I sent a request to him asking for that money back, he kept denying the request. So I'm going to screenshot all of the correspondence and reach out to Venmo. But yeah, I'm out of $500 right now that I don't have. But actually, scarcity, I do have, but I don't like the way that this sort of went down.
That's funny.
Any more questions? Isn't that crazy?
It just makes it makes no fucking sense. It makes zero fucking sense for somebody to do something like that.
Yeah. And it just, I feel like being up in Vermont, like, obviously my work is like centered around Blackness, Black people, you know, kind of around a bunch of like white folk. And like oftentimes, if it wasn't for my work, there's just like no way that I could stomach pretty much like being here full time. And so oftentimes while I'm here, I feel kind of privileged and away from what's happening like in the world. And there's, you know, it kind of fucks with you because you think that like, oh, like I'm like in this bubble and I'm safe. And like, yes, people are doing vigils and things like that. And yes, there are racist people here, but like I'm doing my work and like, you know, I have folks that are like taking care of me and looking out for me. And like nothing crazy like this has happened. And so it's just like, it's a good reminder that like no one is safe anywhere. Like anywhere, like until we burn it all down or do whatever the fuck we need to do, you know, I don't care if you're in rural whatever, you know, where there's only one other Black person, you will experience racism. So it's fucked up.
That is fucked up. Incredible. Like it makes no sense. It's like I remember I used to, God, my experiences in healthcare and racism that's a whole other thing. But I could remember like posting stuff about shows I'm doing on my locker and having the signs ripped down, and nobody knew who did it.
Yeah. What are some of the calls been lately? Like since, you know, all of this has like erupted, like in your own like professional careers, in your own like personal life, like, you know, over the past like week and a half, like what new conversations are happening, or like how has it changed your life? Just this moment since like the death of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, you know, this like sort of outing of like the American theater. How has that really like impacted your life as far as like new conversations, new connections, et cetera, et cetera?
I feel like I'm learning a lot of entrenched racism within organizations that their front-facing sort of party line is that they are the opposite. Without naming names, but I feel like, well, that also I have to like stop and acknowledge that moment, right? Because we're in this beautiful moment of reckoning, it feels like, and revolution and calling out and also calling in. But I still want to say, without naming names, and like protect some sort of idea of this institution, right? Also, I don't have a lawyer, so maybe that's probably one of the reasons, because this place could take me to court if they wanted to. But it's just like, there are all of these organizations, I'll just keep it general, that have heard of all of these movements and are trying to co-opt them or maneuver around them so that they can keep doing the same shit they've been doing, right? So I have been made aware of some of that in this past week that I think it shocked me, but right now I'm sitting with it's not shocking. It just feels part and parcel of the whole fucked up system, right? Mm-hmm. So I think what I am learning this week, along with that there are many movements doing similar work that also need to be amplified, it's that there is this idea of the American theater that we all subscribe to that is not real. And if we keep subscribing to it, it just perpetuates itself. So the first step in undoing, unlearning, and healing that part of ourselves is being like, this is what happened. This is the person who did it to me. And this is the organization that is perpetuating this system. And I'm not scared to say it.
Keelay, you better come on with the word. You better come with the word. It's like, that's literally where my heart and mind has been. It's like, getting all of these phone calls now and these emails and people wanting a partner. And I'm like, before we get to that collaboration, acknowledge, name, like, admit that you have, you know, been a part of that harm and have committed harm, you know, and then amplify, put it on your menu, put it like, write it, keep it on your homepage, amplify the voices of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And then let's talk about a collaboration. But first,
like, I don't want to sit at your table because you've shown me that the food is rotten at that table.
Yeah.
It's like you have to clear off the table, or you're gonna have to just burn that table. Yeah. And we're gonna have to start from getting the wood and building it together. I don't want to be invited somewhere that's like trying to like manage and front face, you know, trying to get these movements to be envelop them into part of their organization so they can be like, well, we amplified this thing. It's like, no, that feels very part and parcel of the whole institution and why we're saying stop it in the first place. Don't invite me to your table now because I called you out, because you're hearing stories, because people are mad. You should have been inviting me to this table. So now it's time to make a new table. We're going to have a whole different luncheon, and you ain't bringing the food.
To pit people against each other.
Right.
Like, I related so hard when you were talking about New York, Jarvis. And I mean, I'm not like, I'll call my goddamn self out. I have said some of the most venomous shit about people who I know I love. Over feeling competitive, jealous, like all of that. Like, I have done that, me. And it's just like it was fed and festered in the American theater as a microcosm, and then in the larger sense of America, like that is the spirit that was fed, and that spirit of scarcity, and that spirit of, why not me? Why that person? Let me tear that person down, not me. And this just spirit of get, but feeling so empty on the inside.
Yeah.
Feeling very empty because you're not the work or it's not feeding you anything substantive. It doesn't. What feeds me is sitting around and talking. Like, when I'm around a group of fellow Black playwrights, I'm rarely happier than that. Just sitting around, I can just remember when I...
What about a queer artistic director?
Listen.
What about a queer Black artistic director?
You could come.
Okay, I can come hang out. I can come hang out.
Do this. Bet y'all didn't think I was getting that on Zoom today.
So it's 4:00, and I just want to close with some sort of refuel. Like, is there anything that either one of you want to share to sort of end this in a I don't know. The word hope is really. I've been thinking about hope a little bit lately, and I'm battling with it because it just kind of I'm torn between is there hope? Yes, of course there is hope, but when I talk I don't want to take away from this moment by being overly optimistic, right? But you know what I mean? And
yeah.
Right? Take away the pain. Okay.
Yeah.
Both of you have.
Go ahead, Stacey.
No, Keelay, you kick your... Well, what you want me to go first?
No, I mean, listen, let's not, I have a joke, but it's so bad.
No. I'm gonna go.
A joke is great.
I'm going to go first.
Okay.
So in this time that we find ourselves in, we always look back. We look back to our ancestors. We look back to the thought leaders who came before us. We look back to the Black theater artists who came before us. But a quote that comes to mind is actually one that my grandmother used to say a lot. And what she used to say was, I ought to kick your ass. And I say that to say is that we got to keep applying pressure. Got to keep setting our foots and asses and applying pressure. Now is not the time to let up. We could be mad at them. We could be mad at us. We can be mad at everybody, but we cannot fucking stop.
Right. Yeah. And to that, like, I just want to echo Stacey, like, revolution is messy and revolution is what you make it. Like, if your revolution is working on you and not joining something, that is okay.
That is okay.
And if your revolution looks like joining all of the committees, that is okay too. Two things can be true at once. And that's like, that's helped me through this quarantine and through this moment, right? I can be sad and I can be happy that there's something moving. Mm-hmm. I can want this movement to be more while still being a part of the movement. So just two things can be true, and revolution is what you make it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But the only thing is that there's no stopping.
Yeah.
There's no stopping. We ain't no back. Harriet got the gun to us.
Right. Well, I thank y'all so much. I love you both. I love you both. Thank you to the
Vermont Jarvis
Council and Vermont Humanities Council for hosting this conversation. I look forward for us to make some revolutionary black ass theater sometime in the near future. Yes, thank you all for watching on Facebook Live. This is my first Facebook Live. We'll see how
Same.
Yeah, cool. All right, bye everyone.
Bye. Bye.